Hi everyone and welcome to OpenTTD with me, Tommy P. This will be my first OpenTTD Let's Play series, and in fact this is my first ever YouTube video, so I hope you all enjoy it and please be kind. I've been playing OpenTTD and the original Transport Tycoon Deluxe on and off for about 6 or 7 years, and it always brings back a lot of nostalgic feelings for me. In my opinion, it's still to the day a solid strategy game that you can literally lose days to, which in turn is likely to instigate divorce proceedings with the wife or significant other in your life if you're not careful. This series will be played on a newly generated random map using the XIS Extreme Industry set GRF. XIS is an industry set I've never seen anyone use in an OpenTTD Let's Play series, so I thought it would be fun to base it on this, as well as a challenge, given that it contains 83 industries and 63 different cargo types. To add to that, I'm also adding a couple of GRFs that add a couple more passenger generating cargo types to give 85 industries in total. I'm hoping to help any new players with hints and tips, so please feel free to post comments, questions and suggestions along the way. Today's video is more of an introduction to the series, so if you're keen to get straight into the action, feel free to move on to the next video using the link in the top right corner. To start with, I thought I'd take you through the settings and GRFs I'll be using throughout the series, followed by a quick outline of the short, medium and long-term aims of the save. The first thing to note with the save is that I'm using a custom patch version of the game, which is called the JGR Patch Pack. This adds a lot of user-friendly functions compared to the base game, none more so than automated timetables, which you will find me using exclusively throughout the game. I won't go through all of the settings in detail, however I thought I'd show you a few of the key ones that I'll be using. So to start with, a couple of settings based around the economy. Inflation, I'll be turning off. I think inflation when it's on makes the game very difficult late on. The cost of purchasing vehicles just becomes far too high in my opinion, so that's one that I'll be turning off. Running costs of vehicles are also going to be low, as are construction costs, which again I'll be setting to low. So immediately you're thinking, this guy's cheating. It's a nice easy start. However, to add a little bit more of a challenge, infrastructure maintenance I will be turning on. This basically will mean that you have to use your existing infrastructure a lot more to ensure that you can keep your costs down. So it adds a little bit more realism to the game, and just something that I always enjoy leaving on within these settings. Vehicle breakdowns, another controversial area. I'm having none in this series. Breakdowns just become a little bit frustrating for me. Again, that's something I'll be like to turn off. Going back to the timetabling that I was talking about before. Automatic timetables. So I'm going to be having these on as default, which will mean that every single vehicle that I build will automatically be assigned a timetable. Timetabling in the original base game is an absolute nightmare to set up, very time consuming, but it's a really critical part of the game for me to ensure that you can run services efficiently and profitably. So fantastic addition in this patch that allows you to do that automatically. All my orders are going to be non-stop by default. This is particularly useful with train services. At the very start of the game, I'll be running a lot of trains along tracks where there will be stations that they'll have to pass through. So instead of having to add non-stop into the orders, this will automatically do that for me. Another one that people might say is a little bit cheaty is disabling electric rails. What this does, it basically allows electric vehicles to run on standard train tracks. For me, upgrading to electric rails is something that is really nothing more than a cost exercise. Literally just open a viewport in one corner of the map and drag it all the way to the other corner of the map when it's time to upgrade to electric rails, which is pretty pointless in my opinion. So by disabling that, it just takes that out of the equation. Another one related to vehicles is vehicles will never expire. This will allow us to basically take some older vehicles when we've upgraded to newer versions on our mainline services and use those older vehicles for perhaps branch line services. So by keeping this on, it just allows me to use any vehicle throughout the history of time of the game. Cargo distribution. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with cargo distribution, this is how the game works out how to deliver goods or passengers from one place to another. So if you take a passenger service as an example, you might have City A, City B and City C. Passengers in A, under normal manual distribution mode, will just go to any place that you tell them to go to. So if you have a service from A to B, they'll happily just go from A to B. However, in asymmetric mode, passengers from A might want to go to C. Some of them might want to go to B. So it just adds that extra bit of realism when it comes to passengers and for mail. However, I'll be leaving all other cargo classes as manual. So if we take coal as an example to a power plant, coal's not all that fussy. It doesn't mind which power plant it goes to in the real world. It just wants to go to a power plant. So we leave that as manual. Another one relating to industries is allowing multiple similar industries per town. By leaving this on, the aim is that hopefully you get, particularly primary industries, clumps of those together, which will allow you to get more cargo from one area to where it needs to go, which hopefully will help drive profitability. Last couple of ones to mention. Whilst paused, I'm going to allow myself to do any action at all, so I can build, construct, destroy. I am pretty useless when it comes to upgrading stations, which is something that we'll have to do quite frequently along the way. And a lot of the time, I just really struggle to be able to do that when the game is still running. So allowing all actions when it's paused will allow me to upgrade those a little bit quicker. And then the last one, end year, or the scoring end year, is going to be 24-20, and that'll become apparent why in a moment. So, as I say, there's some of the key settings. I'm going to just flick through all these now, so if you want to pause the video and have a look at all of the settings that I'm using, you can do so by pausing along. There's so many different settings that you can change in this game. All the things that makes it really unique. You can have a lot of fun with a lot of these. So that's the settings. Now, onto the GRFs. So, for those of you who are not familiar with GRFs in this game, GRFs are effectively mods, and you can add all sorts of different things into the game, different game mechanics, different vehicles, different stations, all sorts of different things to add to your game. These ones on the right hand side are the ones that I'm going to be using throughout this Let's Play series. As you can see, there is a real British emphasis across the board, notably on vehicles, and I really like this UK railway set for the later game in particular, as it brings back many a memory of sitting on a cold, wet train station in the middle of Wales, wearing a bright blue and orange anorak, thermos in hand. Happier times. So there are all our GRFs. Right, let's go set our map up. This patch pack does allow you to have some pretty insane map sizes, as you can see. I think the largest that you can have in a square setting is just under 16,500 by 16,500, which is just bonkers. You wouldn't even be able to fill an eighth of that if you played for 100 years. So I'm playing on a relatively small map size. See all the other settings here. And our starting date, 1920. So going back to the scoring end year of 2420, you can see that will allow for a 500-year game time. So let's generate our map. You can see I'm generating a completely new and random map. Final point to highlight in terms of settings is that I'm going to be using something from the cheat menu. Those of you who don't know how to access the cheat menu, you push Control, Alt and C. That will bring this menu up here. It does come with a warning that you are about to betray your fellow competitors. Keep in mind that such a disgrace will be remembered for eternity. So the setting I'm going to be using in here is the Magic Bulldozer. Now, a lot of people would say this is pretty game breaking, but for me I think it allows more realistic city and town train station layout, especially once those towns and cities start to grow. So if you don't like it, you can sue me. So the grand plan. The first thing I'll be doing is to find a suitable city to place my headquarters, from which will expand the operation and eventually, all being well, achieve world domination. From that initial city, I'll set up a couple of inner city bus services in neighbouring towns and cities to get some of those growing, and once that's done, I'll start connecting a few industry chains, which can get pretty complicated with the XIS set, as we'll come to discover. These initial passenger and freight services should give me enough steady income to start setting up main and branch line passenger services, which is going to be one of the big focuses of the series. The ultimate aim of the save is to connect up every city and town on the map, as well as every industry, and to get rich, enough to buy a new blue anorak at least. Well, that wraps up today's video. Next time we'll start having some actual fun by building stuff, so I hope you can join me then. This is Tommy P, signing off.